What was supposed to be an ordinary workday turns tragic.
Aurora has an active shooter situation. One officer is reported down at this time, active shots being fired.
5 people shot and killed, 5 officers wounded. Among the dead, 2 NIU Huskies.
Reality still hasn't completely hit me that, it happened. It just doesn't seem like it's real at all.
Leadership came naturally to Clay. He was a leader of his peers.
We sit down exclusively with Clay Park's family to find out more about the man, the mentor, and the son. Remembering Trevor Wehner and Clayton Parks as we begin our special coverage of the shooting that has left Aurora strong and our NIU community in shock, trying to heal as we move forward together. NTC News starts now.
Hello, I'm Isai Sanchez.
And I'm Crystal Termini. It's Thursday, February 21st. The day and the chaos unfolded in hours, but for many, it felt like a day that would never end. And when it did end, it was filled with the kind of tragedy that changes lives forever. It was something that no one saw coming. Friday afternoon on February 15th, at 1:24 p.m., the first 911 call comes in with reports of an active shooter.
Requesting as many ambulances as possible for an active shooter with many injuries.
At 1:30, there are the first reports of an officer getting shot. By 1:35, 4 officers have been shot. A minute later, a victim is found. A pursuit ensues and ends with a shootout, and by 2:58, the gunman is killed. Police identify him as 45-year-old Gary Martin. He worked at Henry Pratt for 15 years and supposedly went to work with a gun, knowing he was to be fired on that day. He was carrying his weapon illegally and had an arrest record. The wounded officers have not been identified, but all have been released from the hospital.
The other victims include
47-year-old Russell Byer, who is a union shop chairman. His family describes him as a fun, loving, gentle giant who would have given you the shirt off his back.
54-year-old Vicente Juarez was a stockroom attendant and forklift operator. He worked with the company since 2006. Neighbors described him as a hard-working grandfather and rock of his tight-knit family.
And 37-year-old Josh Pinkert, a father of 3, was the plant manager at Henry Pratt and was in the meeting with the gunman. Pinkert's wife wrote in a text sent to the Tribune that he loved God, his family, and Mississippi State sports. The 5 officers injured while responding have been released from local hospitals. All victims were men ranging from ages 24 to 53 with many years on the force. 3 officers were shot in the leg, 1 in the neck, and another was hit with shrapnel in the eye. Police say they are all recovering at home.
Another victim was Clayton Parks, an avid sports fan, but he loved his family even more. I got a chance to get a closer look into his life.
Our special prayer at this moment is for Clayton Parks, a family man so senselessly taken from us this past week.
32-year-old Clayton Parks had been working at Henry Pratt since November, but 4 years ago, he was a fellow Husky.
Clay graduated in 2014. I had him in one class, change management. He was very goal-driven.
One of Clayton's former professors says he had the qualities of a natural leader. He had a way of lifting up the room.
Yeah, Clay elevated the performance. People say like Michael Jordan made the players around him better. Clay had that.
Speaking of Michael Jordan, Clay's mother says this 1998 photo of him with his brother was one of his best memories. But for Clay, his family was his greatest joy.
Hello.
His wife Abby wrote the following message on Facebook. I believe the same God that brought us together and gave us our precious son will somehow carry us through. I'll love you always and miss you forever, Clay. Clayton's funeral services will be held this Saturday, and everyone is encouraged to dress comfortably in memory of him.
When tragedies like this happen, the media often tries to cover all angles of the story, and as a result, reach out to family members who might want to speak about their lost loved ones.
Clay Parks' mother reached out to us instead. She said it was important for her to share her son's story at the school that he attended and loved.
Kobe Price joins us now with Clay's family. Kobe?
Thanks, guys. I'm joined here by Clay's parents, Dave and Leslie Kendra, and also his brother Cole. Dave, do you have any memories of Clay that you would like to share off the top of your head?
Sure do. I met Clay for the first time in 2005. We're a blended family, and when I was stopping to visit Leslie, we were going to go out to dinner. Both Clay and Cole met me at the front door of the house. And when I came into the house, I was thinking, this is great. I'm going to meet her two sons. And little did I know, I was walking into a whole group of his friends. And so it was an interrogation, essentially, to make sure that I was going to be okay to take his mom out. And so they wanted to know my intentions, what did I like sports, which sports teams did I like. So it was a big interrogation. And so I survived that. We went out. And the next time I came back over, we moved into the kitchen area, and Clay walks by me and just pats me on the back and says, "You done good." And so that was my first interaction with Clay, and I knew we were going to have a great relationship after that.
With the interrogation, it sounded like Clay was a specific kind of guy. Would you say that?
Yeah, he was a prankster. He was he's one of those. He's very outspoken. He brings everybody in, and the thing that I also liked about him is he's very specific. So another story that I had with him is he wanted to paint his room when we got married down in the basement, and he wanted to put fluorescent paint in his room. And so I was thinking he was going to paint the walls a fluorescent color and have a dark light. No, he painted his walls entirely black, and then he invited his friends over, and they wrote sayings and their names and everything on there. So when we came down there and he put the black light on, it was like you were looking at an encyclopedia of all of his friends. And it was fine while he lived there, but then when he moved out, I got to go take care of that room, and it took me about 2 weeks to sand everything so I could paint the room so that it was a decent color for the rest of the world to enjoy. So he was a very comedic kid, and I miss him.
You mentioned during the interrogation he was asking about sports teams.
Oh, yeah.
Big sports fan?
Oh, he's a huge sports fan, and so anything that had to do with the Chicago Bulls, the baseball team, the Cubs, he loved the Cubs, Blackhawks, the Bears, and Cole, Clay, and we went to numerous games. We went to the Winter Classic. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I'm a Pittsburgh fan. We went out and sat in the snow and watched the Blackhawks beat the Pittsburgh, and he was very kind enough to rub it in a little bit while we were enjoying that. We went to he dressed up as one of the grizzly bears when we went to the football games, and we were there when they were playing the Packers, and he was not afraid to taunt the Packers fans in his bear outfit. So again, very effervescent. So he was great.
I'm very sorry about what happened to Clay and the tragedy that occurred. If you guys don't mind, can you tell me, or would you guys be able to share where you guys were, what you guys were doing when you heard about the tragic news?
It started out like any other day. Cole and I were in the backyard and doing a little yard work, and my daughter-in-law, his wife, Abby, called me to say that there had been a shooting in the Henry Pratt facility and that she could not get Clay on his cell phone.
And then when that was ongoing, Leslie called me. I was at work and immediately left work to come home. I wanted to be with the family, and she called again while I was driving and said that she couldn't get hold of Clay either. And I got home, and we just, as the rest of the world did, watch everything just continue to unfold. And then a little bit later in the day, we had confirmation then.
And of course we were calling the Aurora Police Department, the hospitals,
Everywhere.
the morgue, anywhere that we could think of to call and try and get information.
It's been nearly a week since the incident. How is it feeling? How are you guys coping with the loss?
Day by day. I think that's the only answer I can give you, and I know that we'll be going through this process for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, great. It's just day by day we're along for the ride basically, and we just it's changing daily. You know, there's all sorts of activities that we have to deal with, and just do the best.
Thank you. Cole, I understand that you had some words that you want to share about Clay.
Yes, I made a letter that I would like to share about my brother, but I would like my mother to read it.
Absolutely.
My brother and I grew up in Princeville, Illinois, a small town near Peoria, Illinois. We lived in the country and had a creek in our backyard. We came home every day a muddy mess, with either frogs, crawfish, toads, cats, dogs, rabbits, and Mom didn't care. The only thing we didn't bring home was snakes. Clay didn't like snakes. He was afraid of snakes. Growing up, we always had dogs, cats, fish, lizards, and turtles. My brother and I loved to fish, camp out, build fires, let off fireworks, make forts, go paintballing, and just spend time with our friends. Clay and I loved to go to basketball games for special occasions, like Christmas or birthdays. We would splurge and get courtside seats with money we'd saved. My brother and I saw Michael Jordan play several times in Chicago at the United Center. But most especially, in 1998, I was given a wish through the Miracle Network, and Clay and I got to meet Michael Jordan and have lunch at his restaurant. Clay was there for my medical issues. I received a gift of life in the form of a kidney transplant in February of last year. And Clay flew into North Carolina and he was there when I woke up from the surgery. Clay was the talker and a born salesman. He was easy to talk to. When Clay walked into a place as a stranger, he knew everyone and everyone knew him when we left. We watched NASCAR, played with Legos. We went to summer camps. Clay and I loved water parks and the beach. Clay always watched out for me. When I was a little boy, about a year old, Clay and I were at a friend's pool. I was in an inner tube and it flipped over. Clay was around 3 years old and next to me. My mom was running to the pool and Clay heard her screaming. Clay looked over and saw just my feet sticking up out of the water. And Clay turned me over right side up. Clay saved my life that day. I wish I could have protected my brother and saved his life last Friday. I wish I could have kept my brother Clay safe.
Thank you for reading that on Cole's behalf. I understand that you also had words of your own that you want to share too.
I do. My son Clay was a successful, intelligent, driven, fun-loving family man and father of a 9-month-old son, Axel. You see, I knew from a very young age that Clay was a driven leader and achiever. Clay often spoke of his plans for his tomorrows with me. Often during high school, Clay would be perplexed by not knowing what he wanted to be when he grew up, like some of his closest friends. After graduating from high school, Clay chose to work and go to the local community college. Clay worked in sales, and within a few months, became manager in a furniture, electronic, and appliance store. During this same period of time, Clay worked as manager. He and two close friends, Kyle Holloway and Ryan Frakes, started a successful business at FHP Investments, a property management company. Clay enjoyed life during this period of time and was very successful. In 2011, Clay decided to finish his business degree and return to school full-time, graduating from Northern Illinois University in 2014. After graduation in 2014, Clay worked full-time for Caterpillar. Clay got engaged, married his life partner, Abby, built a new home, had a son, and started a very successful internet business. You see, Clay now knew what he wanted to be when he grew up. All of the cliches you hear used with regard to successful people suitably describe Clay, however not adequately. Clay was a legend in his own lifetime and then some. Since this senseless tragedy last Friday at the Henry Pratt facility, resulting in the murder of my son Clay, Trevor Wehner, Russ Byer, Vicente Juarez, and Josh Pinkard, I will never be who I once was. Since this tragedy, I have wondered about my choices in life and the paths I could have, should have, or didn't take. Would it have made a difference if I turned right instead of left, left instead of right, made a U-turn? I suppose I'll always carry that burden. But this is what I do know. I was unable to protect my son, period. I will no longer hear Clay's voice. I will not see his smile. I will not hear Clay laugh. Clay's great plans for life will no longer come to fruition. Clay will not hear his son's first words, nor hear Axel call Daddy for the first time. Clay will not see Axel walk his first steps. Clay will not be able to help shape Axel's future. Clay won't be able to continue to share his life and be able to fulfill the dreams that he and his wife Abby had for the future. I would like to thank the first responders, the emergency response force, the medical personnel who bravely risked their lives that day and every day, and aid victims and those of horrific tragedies. I personally want to thank the Aurora Police Chief, Kristen Zinman, because I can tell you she's one special professional woman. Thank you to Clay's friends, to my family, to the community and strangers who have given us an outpouring of love and compassion. To the students of NIU and all of the other universities, I say to the public and the family, tomorrow brings new promise. Clay, even though I will not see you, hug you, tell you I love you, and experience your years to come, tomorrow brings the promise that I will see you again. I will treasure each memory, and I will hold you closely to me. I will try each and every day to be a better person and give what I can of my time and resources to help others in need, as you so selflessly did. I know that's what you would have wanted me to do. I love you, son, always and forever. I will brave this bitter grief, Mom.
Thank Thank you for sharing those beautiful words with us. We really appreciate you guys being here. Dave, Leslie, Cole, if you guys need anything on behalf of the NIU community, you're more than welcome to reach out. We'll be here for you.
You've been wonderful. And the faculty, the professors, Mr. Barsima, have all reached out to me. And this community, Clay so loved and was so excited about continuing contact with the school and continuing the internship programs and the mentorship for the students. And this is where he wanted me, he would have wanted me to give the story and his family. So I thank you for having us and showing such kindness.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Isai, Crystal, back to you two at the desk.
Clay's passion was to help and mentor younger NIU Huskies. As a result, he helped recruit people to an internship at Henry Pratt. His apprentice was 21-year-old senior Trevor Wehner, and it was Trevor's first and last day on the job. NTC's Victor Weye has Trevor's story.
A first-day intern, a student, a friend, and a son. Those who knew Trevor Wehner remember him as a positive and goal-driven individual, always full of light and happiness.
I think his defining characteristic was his smile. And it seems everybody's been talking about that.
His former professor recalls his most striking feature that no one could forget. It was at this business school where the 21-year-old was majoring in human resources and set to graduate in May. On Monday, his classmates laid flowers at the desk where he used to sit. Trevor always showed up to class early.
Trevor's the first person I saw almost every morning, the days of my classes. 8 o'clock class, which students don't typically like a lot. Trevor was there early, at least 15 minutes early.
And he did the same on the first day of the job.
And he was supposed to start at 8 and he got there at like 7:15. Like he got there very early. He was very excited about it.
Friends and family say he was excited for the internship at Henry Pratt. It was meant to set him up for a possible career. Clay Parks had helped him establish the opportunity. Hundreds of people paid their last respects to Trevor at a vigil in Sheridan, Illinois last night. His brother tells the media that Trevor's legacy will be one of love.
He really wanted, he was a really big inspiration to all the younger kids. I just think he just wanted to help people.
For NTC News, I'm Victor Oweye.
Trevor's funeral service followed the vigil last night.
This was a shooting that not only affected NIU, but it impacted the entire community of Aurora, Illinois. Through snow and ice, the city of Aurora held a vigil Sunday to honor the shooting victims. NTC's Colby Price has more on that story.
Family of the victims, I say, I love you from the bottom of my heart. And I open my heart and the city to you, and anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask.
Unity, strength, and support were extended at the City of Aurora's Community Prayer Vigil Sunday afternoon. Over 1,500 people gathered in the snow and freezing rain outside the Henry Pratt building to honor and pray for the 5 people who lost their lives to workplace violence last Friday. Nearly 48 hours had passed in between the shooting and the vigil, and there was still a sense of disbelief among the Aurora community.
Something like this hits a little bit more home. You know, I've seen it and heard it about it in the news, but when it happens in your own community, I think it impacts you a little bit more.
5 crosses now sit outside of Henry Pratt, each one representing a victim of the shooting. Tears were shed by many, mourning the memories of the loved ones who weren't able to make it home from work. But the city is determined to wrap its arms around its citizens and not allow this tragedy to define them.
The vigil shows that we are strong as a community, and regardless of the weather or anything, I mean, we still came out here and we're here to support each other and help each other through hard times as a community.
After the vigil concluded, a cross procession took place, starting here and ending at the police department on North Indian Trail. 5 crosses were carried, each one representing a life that was lost. For NTC News, I'm Colby Price.
On campus, students have all been dealing with the shock and grief in their own way.
Victor Oweye sat down with an NIU grief counselor with more on what resources are available for those who are looking to get some relief from the pain.
Victor?
Thanks, guys. I'm joined here with Brooke Ruxton, who is the Executive Director of Counseling and Consultation Services. Thank you for being with us, Brooke.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So the first question I have is, At a time like this, which is very devastating, what are students to expect? What kind of things are students to expect?
Sure. So we talk a lot about grief and what does grief mean, and the different feelings that people might feel. And grief, especially when we're blown with such an unexpected, shocking loss, really comes in a variety of forms. So students are likely to feel a lot of different feelings, feeling sad, obviously, feeling angry, confused, feeling that sense of shock, that sense of how could this happen here, how could this happen to someone on our campus. That sense of grief can come and go. It can be all those feelings up and down at different times. There may be moments where someone who's really grieving would feel happy and have a normal moment in their life,
Sure.
Which can also then make them feel guilty, like how can I enjoy this joke that somebody just told when I'm going through something so difficult. So it's a really wide range of emotions that people might be feeling as they're dealing with something like this.
Of course. So in this specific situation, since the duration of this thing has occurred, what are some things that you're hearing on our campus specifically?
Yeah, I think, students who knew Trevor and were close with Trevor are obviously feeling the impact of that grief really hard. And I think my hope would be doing the things that they can do to take care of themselves and take care of each other. Something that can be unexpected, especially when something impacts a community like ours, is that students who might not really have even been connected to Trevor or known him
Right.
are likely to feel a lot of things too. If you've had experiences in your past that are similar in some way, or maybe have been kind of buried for a while, this can bring up a lot of emotions. If you maybe feel like you recognize him when you've seen it on the news, it's been everywhere. Feeling that same sense of loss, that same sense of, as a member of this community, this impacts me, and feeling a little bit confused about that, so this wasn't somebody maybe that I was really close to, but I'm still feeling that sense of loss. I'm still feeling sad. I'm still feeling angry. So I think those are some of the things that can come even for people who aren't really closely connected to what has happened.
Yeah. So also, just to close, what are the type of services that people that you guys are offering students, and who exactly are your services offered to?
Sure. So my office is Counseling and Consultation Services, and we provide individual and group counseling for all students on campus for free. We provide consultation and referrals. So really, when students come into our office, what they can expect is for us to help them get connected to the service that's going to be the best fit for them. What I would say in situations like this too is not everyone who's feeling sad needs to come to a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
I would really encourage people who feel like they need that extra support to come in. But making sure, if you're struggling, to rely on the support systems that you have in place, to talk with friends, to talk with family, to take good care of yourself, eat well, sleep well, those kinds of things. Where it really comes into play, I think, in terms of counseling and getting some extra support is a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, or 3 weeks from now, if those feelings are becoming so overwhelming that it's difficult to do the things that you need to do to get through your day-to-day life. That's where that might be a trigger to say, yeah, maybe I should get some extra help. I also think students on our campus should be looking out for one another. Sometimes it's hard to see what's going on for yourself, but somebody else, a close friend, sometimes the best thing you can do as a friend is say, hey, I really think you need some help. I really think you're not doing well, and how can I get you some support?
Thank you so much, Brooke, for being with us
You're
at this time. So thank you guys. Back to you all.
Thanks, Victor. NIU will be holding a vigil tonight to honor the victims of the Aurora shooting. The Standing with Aurora Honoring Our Huskies vigil will take place in the Regency Room of the Home Student Center. Doors open at 5 p.m. and the vigil begins at 5:15 p.m. U.S. Senator Dick Durbin plans to be at the event.
Thank you for joining us for this special show. I'm Isai Sanchez.
And I'm Crystal Termini. Take care, everyone.